So I've included in your materials an example of what the form actually looks like. But a couple of things to keep in mind here when you're completing this form. Now, there's on the form itself, there's 3 check boxes you can click. There's the initial exemption. So that's when you have that 30 days and you do your risk-based analysis and you look to see, are they going to have that much cash activity? Once you've made that determination, then you're going to file your designation of exempt person. That's the initial exemption. But you'll also notice there's check boxes for amending the form and then revoking the exemption. All right. So you could file a document to amend or revoke. Now, when is an amendment required? And it's pretty broad. It's anytime the information on the original designation of exempt person, anytime that information becomes outdated, changes, or is no longer correct. All right. So any of those fields, if something changes, then we have to go through and file an amendment. Okay. This is a common violation that I see across the board, right? Because, what might be one of those changes? Well, a change in the customer's legal name. Maybe they had a merger or an acquisition or rebranding or corporate restructuring, whatever it might be. If they've changed their legal name, that would be a trigger for us to file an amended designation of exempt person. If they've changed their address, right? Because we have their address on the original form. This is very common. A new principal business or a new mailing address, that would be a trigger. Changes in the customer's tax identification number doesn't happen as often, but it can happen, and that would be a trigger. Changes in the type of exemption. So maybe it was phase 2 to begin with, and this company went public, and so now they're phase 1. So you would go through and amend it there. Changes in the ownership structure or business structure, that's very common. So maybe there's new controlling owners, or maybe there was a partnership that got dissolved or got converted into a different type of company, something along those lines. Or maybe it's just change in the customer's business. So they no longer, qualify for the exemption or something along those lines. Okay. Now, when is it not required? Now, you don't have to go through and file an amendment, for every annual review, right? It used to be there was a rule where you would have to, kind of update these things every 2 years. That's no longer required. If there's some kind of temporary operational changes that are going on, so you might see a reduction of activity. Well, as long as you monitor and make sure that it picks up again after a certain amount of time, you don't have to necessarily go through and update that form. Now, what about revoking? Well, here's the thing. You're technically not required to formally revoke a designation of exempt person. Okay. It does say that. Now you could just start filing CTRs and they'll figure it out. However, from an internal business practices perspective, and just for clarity in our files, a lot of us like to file that revocation just so we have a clear spot in time where we say, okay, here's where we shut this thing down and started filing our CTRs. And now we're no longer doing all of those other technical requirements. And so it is an option, but you should never be cited for failing to revoke a designation of exempt person, right? That's not actually a legal requirement. Okay.